Howard Hughes is a name that sounds like a legend, intertwined with genius and mystery. Imagine a man who conquered the skies on his own planes, turned the film industry upside down, and at the same time lived in a constant struggle with his own demons. He was a billionaire, an aviator, an inventor, and at the same time a hermit isolated from the world. Why does the story of Howard Hughes still fascinate and scare at the same time? How could a man who had everything, fame, money, power, find himself on the verge of madness? This is a story about a dream that soared to the heavens and a fall that left scars. Let's dive into the life of one of the most complex and interesting personalities of the 20th century, Howard Hughes. I am Howard Hughes, a man who seemed infinitely powerful, but the truth often hid behind a mask. I saw the sky like no other, felt the freedom and power in my own hands, holding the wheel of an airplane. And yet sometimes that freedom became a shackle. I thought my decisions would lead me to the top, but they led me into deep darkness. Can a man who seeks to control everything around him really maintain control over himself? From a young age, I felt the weight of expectations from my father, the world, myself. My journey began with the belief that I could do anything, build an empire, conquer the sky, change the film industry. I was invincible. That's what it seemed to me then. But with each step closer to my goal, I felt my soul clench with fear. Fear of losing control. Fear that everything I had created might crumble like sand through my fingers. My life was a continuous choice between light and shadow. Every decision carried responsibility and later disappointment. I wanted to be perfect in business, in aviation, and in my personal life. But the ideal often turned out to be a trap. I remember sitting alone at night in a huge estate, in the embrace of darkness, and thinking, is this really what I wanted? Have I pushed away those who loved me too much, chasing my own dreams? Despair began to eat me up, slowly, silently. I became a recluse, afraid to touch the world, for fear that the world would reveal my weaknesses. My hands, which had once created miracles, now trembled with fear. I closed in on myself, trying to hide from the reality I had created. And yet, I don't regret my dreams. They were my meaning, my flame in the darkness. Yes, they brought pain and loneliness, but without them I wouldn't be who I am. Can true genius exist without a dark side? I saw heights that others could only dream of, and for that I was willing to pay any price. Now, looking back, I see that every decision, every mistake is a lesson. But the most important lesson I learned: you can't let fear rule your life. You can't lose yourself in the pursuit of an ideal. My story is not just a story of success or failure. It's a reminder of the price that everyone pays who strives to be great. If you are reading this, know that your strength is not in controlling everything, but in accepting yourself with all your imperfections. Don't be afraid of mistakes. Don't be afraid of darkness. It makes the light brighter. I was Howard Hughes, a man who looked into the abyss and still tried to soar higher. And that's my real story. I go back to those moments when it seemed like the whole world was under my feet and the sky was just the beginning. I remember holding the helm of my own plane, feeling the wind whipping through the wings and the engines roaring. I was the king of the sky, free and invincible. But was this real freedom? Or was it just an illusion I created for myself to escape from my inner anxieties and fears? It was there, high up, far from the ground, that I could forget about the burden that I could not bear. It seemed like my life was an endless pursuit of perfection. Every new project, every flight, every film was an attempt to prove to myself and the world that I was more than just a person, that my will could overcome any limitations. But I didn't understand that in my desire to control everything around me, I was losing control of myself. My thoughts were becoming darker, and my decisions were becoming more impulsive and destructive. How many times did I ask myself at night, is this worth it? Have I left behind ruins where greatness should have been? I built empires that seemed to last forever. My planes became legends. My films became icons of the era. But behind the glitter and success was a loneliness that no amount of money could buy. I lived in fear of making mistakes that could destroy everything I had created. The fear turned into an obsession. I began to close myself off from people, afraid they would see my weaknesses. And that was the scariest thing, being surrounded, but at the same time feeling completely alone. My every move, every decision was under a microscope, and it was crushing, breaking. I saw those who were close disappear, relationships crumble, hopes dissolve. My demons became louder and louder, and I lost the ability to control them. Obsessive-compulsive rituals, fears, depression, these are not just words, they are my life, my constant companions. And yet, I can't say I have any regrets. Every moment, even the darkest, was part of my journey. I wanted to leave a mark, to change the world, to rise above the ordinary. I wanted more than just to exist. I wanted to live so that my name would be remembered, so that my influence would be limitless. And I did, even if the cost was too high. I know that many people saw me as just a strange recluse, a crazy billionaire who had lost touch with reality. Maybe that's what I was. But I was also a man who fought against himself as hard as anyone else. People often don't understand that behind the brilliance and success, there are many sacrifices and internal battles. If you are reading my story, know this: don't let fears and doubts paralyze you. I know what it's like to fall and lose your bearings. But each of us has a choice, to stay in the darkness or to find the light, even if it seems tiny. My life is an example of how even the greatest achievements can have shadows, and the most important thing is not to be afraid to admit them. I was Howard Hughes, a man who wanted to soar above everyone else, even if it meant losing himself. My story is a reminder of the value of dreams and the power of self-acceptance. Don't be afraid of your weaknesses. They are what make us real. And if you can understand that, you are one step closer to true freedom. I often think back to the moments when things could have been different, when I could have chosen a different path, made different decisions. But was I ready then? Could I have given up that thirst for control that burned within me? Anyone who aspires to the top knows the temptation to hold everything in their hands, not letting anyone or anything loosen their grip. But the truth is, it is this fear of control that kills freedom. I realized this too late, when people around me began to disappear and I was left alone with my own demons. Imagine a person who spent a lifetime building empires, in business, in the sky, in art, and was left without those who mattered most. I lost friends, loved ones, even myself. I had power in my hands, but my heart was broken. The price I had to pay for success was something I could not have foreseen. I had seen how power betrays, how money cannot buy true happiness, and how even the strongest can fall if they fail to find balance. My days became longer and darker, and my nights became sleepless. I lived in fear. Fear of losing control, fear of the unknown, fear of myself. I remember how every move became a test for me, how I searched for safety in every corner, but found only emptiness. And then I understood, you can't be strong forever. Sometimes you have to be able to let go. But that was the hardest thing for me, letting go of control and allowing myself to simply be human. Despite everything, I remained true to my dreams. Because what is life without dreams? I knew that even if I fell, even if I made mistakes, I could not stop fighting for what I believed in. My path was thorny and lonely, but it was mine. And even now, when the world may judge me for my mistakes, I hope that someone will find in my story the strength not to give up. Look at me not just as a legend or a madman, but as a human being with fears, pain, and hopes. And if you ever feel like the world is too big and you are too small, remember, even in the darkest times, you can find light. Don't let your fears destroy you like they destroyed me. I was Howard Hughes, a man who dreamed of soaring above the clouds and who learned that true freedom begins with self-acceptance. My story is not just a chronicle of successes and failures. It is a story about the importance of not losing your humanity, even when you seem invincible. If you take anything from my life, let it be this: never be afraid to be vulnerable, because vulnerability is where true strength lies. And maybe then your wings will be stronger and your flight will be longer.